The winds of winter. I feel like I don't even need to explain what that phrase means to anyone watching this video. If you're here, you already know. You've already been through the stages, the optimism, the copium, and then the weird Zen-like acceptance that maybe this book just exists in some parallel universe where George R.R. Martin has slightly better time management skills, and we are simply not in that universe. But here's the thing, despite the fact that this book has been in development for going on 15 years now, despite the fact that George himself has called it, and I am quoting directly here, the curse of my life, we actually know a remarkable amount about what's in this book. That's what today is about, because I think a lot of people, when they talk about Winds of Winter, get stuck in one of two camps. Either they're just complaining about the weight, which fair, completely valid, I've done it too. Or they're going deep on one specific theory or one specific character, and both of those things are fine. But what I want to do today is zoom all the way out. I want to go through everything, the confirmed plot points from the sample chapters, the stuff George has told us in interviews, the logical deductions you can make just from where the books left off. And yeah, some fan theory territory too, because at this point the line between theory and what's obviously going to happen. We're going to talk about the battles, characters, the mysteries, the deaths that are probably coming. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a pretty clear picture of what the Winds of Winter is actually going to look like, assuming it ever comes out, which, for the record, I do believe it will eventually. Let's get into it. Part 1, where we actually are. Before we can talk about what's coming, we need to get crystal clear on where things stood at the end of A Dance with Dragons, because I think it's easy to forget just how many storylines Martin left dangling at once. Jon Snow is dying on the ground at Castle Black, stabbed repeatedly by his own brothers in a mutiny. Daenerys is stranded in the Dothraki Sea on the back of Drogon, having just watched Meereen descend into chaos behind her. Cersei has just completed her walk of atonement through King's Landing, humiliated, broken, and absolutely seething. Jaime has disappeared into the Riverlands with Brienne under mysterious circumstances. Tyrion has survived the Battle of Meereen and is playing politics in a city about to go to war. Aegon Targaryen, the young man claiming to be Rhaegar's son, has landed in the Stormlands with the Golden Company and is already winning. Stannis is somewhere in the snow north of Winterfell, marching through a blizzard, and Ramsay Bolton has sent a letter claiming he's already dead. Arya is in Braavos, faceless and nameless. Sansa is hiding in the Vale under Littlefinger's wing. Theon and Jane Poole have just jumped off the walls of Winterfell. Bran is in a cave beyond the wall, learning to see through the eyes of a raven. And Sam is on a boat to Old Town. That is where we are. That's the hand George dealt himself to write out of. And when you look at it laid out like that, it becomes pretty obvious why this book has taken as long as it has. Because you don't just have a lot of characters. You have a lot of characters who are all at pivotal turning points simultaneously. Almost every single storyline is at a moment of maximum tension. And somehow Martin has to start weaving these threads back together, advancing some toward resolution and doing it all while maintaining the internal logic of a world that has thousands of years of history behind it. So yeah, the book is complicated, but let's talk about what we actually know. Part 2, what's confirmed. There are 11 sample chapters that exist in some form for The Winds of Winter. Some are fully published on George's website or in the back of paperback editions of Dance. Some were read at conventions and transcribed by fans, and some are just partially known through fan notes. George has said he's unlikely to release more because at this point too much of the book is already out there in some form, but what these chapters tell us is significant. Theon. The Theon sample chapter is one of the clearest windows we have into the opening of the book. Stannis is alive. Despite what Ramsay's letter claims, Stannis is not dead. He's camped in the snow, dealing with the Karsark betrayal, because Arnulf Karsark, who presented himself as an ally, is actually working for Rose Bolton. Stannis figures this out, and in typical Stannis fashion, he deals with it. There's also a moment in this chapter that's deeply uncomfortable in the best possible way, where Theon is sitting there with all of this knowledge about Ramsay, about what he does to people, and he's desperately hoping for a battle just because dying in battle is better than whatever Ramsay has planned. That is the emotional state of this character going into this book. The Victorian chapter picks up, as George said himself, literally 5 minutes after Dance ends. The Ironborn fleet is on the eve of their attack on Slaver's Bay, and Victarion has the dragon horn, the one that supposedly binds dragons, the one that will kill whoever blows it. And in this chapter, he pulls aside a crew member and tells him to blow the horn when the time comes, knowing full well he's sentencing this man to death. That tells you everything you need to know about Victarion. Tyrion. We have 2 Tyrion chapters in some form, and both of them are essentially set during the chaos surrounding the Battle of Meereen, which George calls the Battle of Fire. In one of them, Tyrion is in the thick of it, reflecting on the Battle of the Green Fork, while Penny is strapping on his armor, and he's thinking probably for the first time in a while that he actually wants to survive. Then a messenger arrives who recognizes him, and Jorah kills the man. And then Brown Ben Plum, the commander of the Second Sons, switches sides back to Daenerys, which is a massive moment. The Second Sons were fighting against her, now they're not. Barristan, 2 chapters, and both are about the Battle of Meereen from the Westerosi side. The first has Barristan riding through the city on Daenerys' horse, giving a speech before the battle. The second, which is actually earlier in the sequence, ends with him watching the Ironborn fleet destroy the Slaver fleet as the battle begins. And from what we can piece together from fan reports, Barristan is absolutely going to die in this battle. The setup is too perfect. He's fighting in a foreign land for a queen who isn't there, in a conflict that has nothing to do with Westeros, against a Yunkai coalition backed by Lannister gold. It's the kind of death Martin writes. Meaningful, poetic, and completely unfair. Arianne, 2 full sample chapters, and they're fascinating. Arianne Martell is traveling through the Stormlands to meet Aegon Targaryen, who is calling himself Aegon VI, son of Rhaegar. And what's interesting about these chapters is watching Arianne's political mind work. She's not sure if Aegon is real. She's not sure if Dorne should back him. And Martin drops this final line in the 2nd chapter that is genuinely chilling. She says she's going to go beard the dragon in his den, and then it just cuts. We don't see the meeting, and we probably won't see it until the book itself. Arya. The Mercy chapter is one of the most purely entertaining things Martin has written. Arya is working as an actress with a theater company in Bravos, performing in a play called The Bloody Hand, which is a theatrical retelling of the War of the Five Kings. And it's deeply ironic because Tyrion is the villain of this play, and Arya is playing a woman seducing him. But more importantly, she spots Raph the Sweetling in the crowd, one of the Mountain's men on her list, and she arranges to meet him privately under the pretense of seduction, and then she kills him and dumps his body in the canal. The Faceless Men gave her a different name to kill. She killed her own target instead. She is not fully a faceless man. She is Arya Stark, and she is not letting go of that. The Elaine chapter shows us Sansa fully inhabiting her false identity, preparing for a tournament of sorts, the selection of winged knights to serve as Robert Arryn's personal guard. And what's striking about this chapter is how much she's starting to sound like Littlefinger. The political calculation, the manipulation, she's learning, she's becoming dangerous, and Mad Mouse is there, a hedge knight who, in Feast for Crows, was described as searching for Sansa for a reward. So there's a threat circling her even here, even in the supposed safety of the Vale. Aeron, this is the one. This chapter is one of the best things in the entire series, and it's not even published in a book yet. Aeron Greyjoy is a prisoner of his brother Euron. He's been forced to drink a hallucinogen called Shade of the Evening. And then what follows is a sequence of visions that are genuinely terrifying. Gods drowning, the world in darkness, and at the end of it, Euron sitting on the Iron Throne, dressed in Valyrian steel armor, actual Valyrian steel armor, which nobody has had in 400 years, tied the prow of his ship like a figurehead. Euron Greyjoy in the books is not Euron Greyjoy from the show. He is something else entirely. He is deeply cosmically sinister in a way the show never captured. And The Forsaken makes that very, very clear. Part 3. The Battles. George has confirmed that The Winds of Winter opens with 2 major battles simultaneously. The Battle of Ice, Stannis versus the Boltons, and the Battle of Fire, the clash at Meereen. And then there are at least 2 more battles to come later in the book. The Battle of Steel, which is Aegon's assault on Storm's End, and the Battle of Blood, which is Euron attacking Oldtown. 4 major battles in one book, which either sounds incredibly exciting or like an absolute nightmare to write, depending on whether whether you're a reader or the author. The Battle of Ice. Stannis is marching on Winterfell. He's been slowed by blizzards. He's losing men to the cold. His supply lines are stretched, and the Boltons are sitting inside Winterfell's walls, waiting him out. Ramsay's letter says Stannis is already dead and defeated, but from the Theon sample chapter, we know that's not entirely true, at least not at the time that chapter was written. Stannis is still alive, and there are wild cards in play that Ramsay doesn't know about. Rickon Stark and Shaggy Dog are supposedly on Skagos, and Davos has been sent to retrieve them. Wyman Manderley is playing a double game, loyal to the Starks while pretending to serve the Boltons. The direwolves are a factor, and somewhere in all of this, Shireen Baratheon is going to burn. George has confirmed this. It's in the books. Stannis burns his daughter. Not for nothing, it's connected to the magic that eventually brings Jon Snow back. But it happens, and it is one of the most devastating things in this entire series. The Battle of Fire. This is Meereen. The slaver coalition, Yunkai, Astapor, Volantis, has brought their fleet to retake the city while Daenerys is gone. Victarion's Ironborn arrive at the same time, and what you have is essentially a three-way chaos in the bay while Barristan is trying to hold the city from the inside. The dragon horn gets blown, someone dies blowing it. Victarion almost certainly ends up bound to or controlling a dragon by the end of it, at least briefly. The implication of the horn, that it binds a dragon to whoever commands it, though the horn kills the blower, not the commander. So Victarion may emerge from this with a dragon and a dead crew member and think he's won something, which, knowing Martin, means something terrible is about to happen to him. The Battle of Steel. Aegon and the Golden Company take Storm's End. George initially said this battle would happen off screen, but then changed his mind. So we're going to see it. And given that Storm's End has never been taken by force in the history of Westeros, not once, ever, it's either going to involve a massive amount of treachery from inside, or Aegon is going to do something that makes people believe he really is a Targaryen. Storm's End falls, and after that, Aegon marches on King's Landing, the Battle of Blood. This is Euron at Old Town, and this is probably the most terrifying battle of the four. Based on what we see in The Forsaken, Euron has a plan that involves sacrifice, dark magic, and something connected to the others and to the fabric of the world itself. Sam is in Old Town. The Citadel is there. The Horn of Winter might be there. The Faceless Men have an operative there, and Euron, wearing Valyrian steel, arrives with a fleet and begins what is probably going to be the most cosmically significant event in the book. Part 4, the characters, where they're going. Now let's go character by character and talk about what's actually going to happen. And I want to be clear about what's confirmed versus what's logical deduction, because there's a difference, and I'll try to flag it. Jon Snow, he's confirmed to be in the book. George confirmed it. He's coming back. How exactly he comes back in the books is going to be different from the show. We know that. But Melisandre is at Castle Black. She stayed there specifically, and the setup has been building since her very first point of view chapter in Dance. The more interesting question is what Jon looks like when he comes back. Lady Stoneheart is a version of resurrection. Beric Dondarrion is another version. Each time someone comes back in this world, they lose something. The question isn't whether Jon returns. It's what he loses when he does. And here's something worth thinking about. Jon's watch has technically ended. His oath was until death, so whatever comes back from that stabbing is not the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch anymore. He's free, and the North needs a Stark. And Howland Reed, the only living person who witnessed the Tower of Joy, the only person who can confirm, the only living person who witnessed the Tower of Joy, the only person who can confirm what Ned Stark whispered to himself and to no one and to everyone, is still out there, waiting. That revelation is coming. And in the books, Jon Snow is someone who wanted Winterfell, who nearly took Stannis' offer, who understood what it would mean to be legitimized. He is not going to shrug it off the way the show's Jon did. Daenerys is in the Dothraki Sea, alone, on Drogon, and a Khalasar has found her. The show handled this by having her burn the Khals, and I think something similar happens in the books. George has said the Dothraki re-enter the story in a big way, and Dany has clearly had some kind of internal transformation at the end of Dance, embracing fire and blood in a way she had not before. But she has to get back to Meereen. She has to deal with whatever is left after the battle, and then she has to make her way to Westeros. By the end of Winds of Winter, Daenerys Targaryen is going to be on a ship headed for the Seven Kingdoms. Everything in the book is building to that. Cersei is going to be extraordinary in this book. She is our only window into King's Landing for most of it. She has her trial by combat coming. The crown will be represented by Sir Robert Strong, who is definitely the reanimated Gregor Clegane and who will win because he is literally undead. But Aegon is coming, and Aegon changes everything. The Tyrells are going to fracture. Mace Tyrell leaves the city. Kevin Lannister is dead. The small council is a mess. And Cersei, rather than being a prisoner or a penitent, is going to claw her way back to power just in time for the whole city to fall apart under her feet. There is a prophecy, the Valonqar, that has been hanging over her entire storyline. Whether it is Jaime or Tyrion or someone else, that prophecy ends this book or the next one. Tyrion is the only POV character confirmed to be fully written. His entire arc for this book exists on paper. And based on what Martin has said and what we have read, Tyrion's journey in Winds is about choosing to live. In Dance, he did not particularly care whether he survived. In Winds, he decides he wants to, and his path runs through the Battle of Fire, through survival, through eventually meeting Daenerys. And that meeting, whenever it comes, is going to be complicated, because Tyrion knows about Aegon, and that is going to be enormously useful to Daenerys when she finds out she has a rival Targaryen already in Westeros ahead of her. Brienne are together. We know Martin was writing their chapters at the same time he finished the Cersei chapters. Lady Stoneheart has them both. Brienne was given the choice of sword or noose, kill Jaime or hang, and she chose something that we have not seen yet. And now they are presumably headed back to Stoneheart, back to the Brotherhood without banners. And what happens there is probably going to be a trial of some kind, a reckoning. Lady Stoneheart is Catelyn Stark's body with vengeance, where her soul used to be. And Robb's will, the document legitimizing Jon and naming him heir to the North, is somewhere in this mix. That thread has to be resolved. It's too important to leave dangling. Aegon, he takes Storm's End. He marches on King's Landing. He probably takes it. And the question that runs through every Aryan chapter, through Tyrion's observations, through everything, is whether he is actually Rhaegar's son or whether he is a Blackfyre pretender, a mummer's dragon, as Quaithe warned Dany. And here is the brutal irony of it. It might not matter, because by the time Daenerys arrives in Westeros, Aegon might already be sitting the Iron Throne. And that puts two Targaryens, or one Targaryen and one very convincing fake, in direct conflict. The Dance of the Dragons, the title of House of the Dragon, is named for the original Targaryen civil war. And we might be about to see a new one. Arya leaves Braavos. She has to. That Mercy chapter is the beginning of the end of her time with the Faceless Men. She burned her identity. She killed her own target instead of the one she was assigned. She is Arya Stark. And George has said he was writing her heading back to Westeros in 2020. She is going home. With what skills? With what purpose? Carrying what names on her list? And we know some of those names are already dead and some are not. That is the arc of Arya in this book. The last assassin, who is also a 12-year-old girl from Winterfell, going home. Sansa is in the Vale. She is getting dangerous. And Littlefinger, whose grand plan still has not been fully revealed, is using her as a chess piece while teaching her to be a chess player herself. The irony is, she might be better at it than him by the time she realizes she needs to be. There is a prophetic vision in the books, a giant slain in a castle made of snow that points to Sansa eventually killing Littlefinger. And when she does, she reclaims her name. She becomes Sansa Stark again. The question is when and what Littlefinger does before then. George has said the show's version of Stannis is wrong. The show had him burn Shireen and then lose and then die at Brienne's hand. And George has been pretty clear that his Stannis is more complex. Does Stannis survive Winds of Winter? I genuinely do not know, but I think he wins the Battle of Ice. I think Rickon arrives. I think the North remembers. And Stannis, for all his grimness and righteousness and inability to be liked by literally anyone, might actually take Winterfell. Bran is going to see things. Through the weirwood trees, through his expanding green sight, he is going to witness events that readers have been asking about for years. The Tower of Joy is the obvious one. The moment Lyanna Stark died, the promise Ned made, that is coming, probably through Bran, and Hold the Door is coming as well. The moment of Hodor's origin and Hodor's death. George has confirmed this happens in the books too, just slightly differently than the show. In the books, Hodor steals a sword from the Stark crypts. Bran wargs walks into him, and he holds that door while fighting. Now let us talk about the mysteries that might get answered. The Winds of Winter is going to have to start addressing some of the biggest questions in the series, and there are a few I think are almost certain to get resolved here. R plus L equals J, Jon's parentage. This is not going to wait until Dream of Spring. The groundwork is all laid. The hints are everywhere. Brandon can see into the past through the Weirwood network. Howland Reed, who has been conspicuously absent from the entire series despite being the only surviving witness to the Tower of Joy, is going to show up. And when he does, it will be because it is time for Jon to know what he is. The reveal in the books is going to mean something different than it did in the show, because Book Jon actually wanted power. Book Jon nearly became Jon Stark. This information is going to land on someone who will genuinely have to reckon with it. The Pink Letter. Did Ramsay actually write it? Is Stannis dead? Is Mance really a prisoner? The book opens with this letter hanging over everything, and the Theon sample chapter suggests Ramsay was lying about at least parts of it, but the full truth of the letter, who wrote it, what is actually true, is going to be one of the first things Winds of Winter resolves. The others. George said we are going further north than we have ever been in these last 2 books. We are going to learn more about the others. Not everything. That might be Dream of Spring territory, but something. What they are, what they want, why now. Whether the theory that the children of the forest created them is something the books actually pursue, that answer is coming. Euron and Valyria. George confirmed in an interview that Euron actually went to Valyria. He actually sailed the Smoking Sea, and he came back with that Valyrian steel armor and whatever else he found there. What does he know? Because Euron in The Forsaken reads less like a pirate king and more like someone who has looked at the true nature of the world and decided to use it as a weapon. He is the most dangerous character in the series, and he is about to attack Old Town. Howland Reed. I already mentioned him in the Jon section, but he deserves his own moment here. This man has been absent from the entire series. He was one of the most important figures at one of the most important moments in recent Westerosi history. He knows the truth, and Martin has kept him off the page for 15 years because putting him on the page would require revealing what he knows. His appearance in Winds of Winter, whenever it comes, is going to be a major event. Now I want to talk about what this book is actually about, because I do not think The Winds of Winter is just about plot mechanics. I think there is a thematic spine to it that Martin has been building toward. Every book in the series has a thesis. A Game of Thrones is about the cost of honor. A Clash of Kings is about what people do when civilization breaks down. A Storm of Swords is about consequences. A Feast for Crows is about the aftermath of war, how broken people try to rebuild themselves and the world and mostly fail. A Dance with Dragons is about identity. Every major POV in that book is asking some version of the question, who am I really? Winds of Winter, based on everything we know, is going to be about choices under impossible pressure. Winter is here. The others are coming. The political game that everyone has been playing, the Game of Thrones, is suddenly meaningless in the face of existential, and every character is going to have to choose. Some will make the right choice. A lot of them will not. George said it himself at a book fair in 2016. Winter is the time when things die. Things get worse before they get better. And some of the characters we love are in very, very dark places. The Winds of Winter is not going to be a comfortable book. It is not going to give us easy victories. The Red Wedding happened in book 3, so whatever the equivalent event is in book 6, and there will be one, maybe more than one, is going to hit just as hard, maybe harder. And then there is the real world, where we actually are in 2026. Martin has said he has approximately 1,100 to 1,200 manuscript pages complete. He said that in 2022. He said the same number in 2023. And as of early 2026, the number has not publicly moved. He is still writing. He has confirmed he is still writing. But he has also said, in a moment of unusual candor, that maybe the people saying he will never finish are right. And that is a rough thing for a fan to hear. There are no leaked chapters. The publisher has explicitly denied rumors of a finished manuscript. There is no release date. There is no imminent announcement. But here's what I keep coming back to. George Martin has been writing this story for over 30 years. He built an entire world. The history, the languages, the geography, the thousands of years of Westerosi lore. He has not walked away from it. He still talks about it. He still cares. And Tyrion's chapters are done. Cersei's chapters are done. And George has said that the ending, his ending, the one in his head, is not going to be the show's ending. He has something he wants to say with this story. something the show, in its rush to the finish, could not say. Whether he gets to say it or not is genuinely unclear at this point. And that is the saddest sentence I have ever had to put in a YouTube script. But the book that he is writing, the one that exists in pieces across 15 years of sample chapters and convention readings and interview snippets, is extraordinary. Everything we know about The Winds of Winter suggests it is going to be the most ambitious, most devastating, most complex novel in the series, if it exists, when it exists. And I, for one, am still waiting. If you have made it this far, you clearly care about these books as much as I do. If you want more content like this, deep dives into the characters, the theories, the history of Westeros, subscribe to the channel. I have a lot more coming.